Chosen one, before you scroll away from this moment, listen carefully, because what is happening inside you is not random, and it is not small. There is a version of you that is beginning to rise, and when you finally see that person clearly, even you will pause in disbelief. Not because you have become someone fake, distant, or unrecognizable in a painful way, but because the weight you carried for so long will no longer sit on your face, in your voice, or in your spirit, the same way it once did. The heaviness that followed you into quiet rooms will begin to lift. The thoughts that once exhausted you will no longer have the same power. The old fears that shaped your choices will not keep ruling your steps. Something holy has been happening beneath the surface of your life, even in seasons when nothing seemed to change, and that hidden work is closer than ever to becoming visible. You were not brought to this message by accident. I know life has taught you to doubt things that sound too hopeful. I know disappointment has made you cautious. I know there were days when you prayed and heard no answer. Nights when you lay awake with your mind spinning, wondering whether God still saw you in the middle of all this waiting. But hear this with your whole heart. The silence was not abandonment. The delay was not rejection. The hidden season was not a sign that your life had lost direction. It was a place of preparation. It was a place where God was working in layers, too deep for quick results, and too sacred for public applause. While you were wondering why everything felt still, heaven was shaping your spirit in secret. While you were asking why certain doors stayed closed, God was protecting you from stepping into places that matched your impatience, but not your calling. While you thought nothing meaningful was moving, your roots were going deeper. There are some transformations that happen loudly. Everyone notices them. Everyone comments on them. Everyone calls them success. But the deepest transformations often begin in silence, where no one can interrupt them, distort them, or try to control them. That is the kind of work God has been doing in you. He has been changing how you think when fear comes. He has been changing how you respond when disappointment returns. He has been changing what you crave, what you tolerate, what you chase, and what you are finally ready to leave behind. You may not have had the language for it yet, but you have felt it. You have felt that certain things no longer fit your spirit the way they used to. You have felt that noise tires you faster now. You have felt a quiet hunger for peace, for truth, for clarity, for something deeper than surface-level comfort. That is not weakness. That is not confusion. That is growth. Stay with me, because this message may help you understand why you have felt so different lately. There are moments when a person starts changing and misreads the signs. They think they are falling apart when they are actually being rebuilt. They think they are losing themselves when they are finally shedding what never truly belonged to them. They think they are becoming too sensitive, when in reality, their spirit is becoming more awake. If that has been happening to you, do not be afraid of it. You are not becoming less. You are becoming more honest, more grounded, more aligned with who God created you to be before pain taught you survival and before disappointment taught you to shrink. The version of you that is rising now has been there all along, buried under pressure, people-pleasing, old wounds, and the quiet habit of expecting too little from life because too much once hurt. There was a time when you learned how to survive by making yourself smaller. You learned how to stay quiet when your heart was breaking. You learned how to carry everything alone because asking for help felt dangerous. You learned how to smile when you were tired and keep moving when your soul wanted rest. You became strong in ways people admired, but they did not always understand what that strength cost you. They did not see the private tears. They did not hear the prayers you whispered, with no confidence left in your voice. They did not know how many times you nearly gave up mentally, even while still showing up physically. But God saw every hidden battle. Jesus was present in every silent moment. Not once did heaven confuse your survival with your identity. The way you coped is not who you are. The way you adapted is not the final truth of your life. That matters more than you realize, because one of the greatest lies pain tells is that the version of you shaped under pressure must be the version of you forever. Pain says this is just who you are now. Fear says you will always react this way. Disappointment says you should stop expecting anything beautiful. But God does not speak over your future through the language of your wounds. He speaks through truth. He speaks through purpose. He speaks through the identity He formed before the world bruised your confidence. And little by little, that truth is returning to the center of your life. You are starting to sense that you were not made to live in constant inner tension. You were not made to distrust every good thing. You were not made to carry everyone else while neglecting the state of your own soul. You were made to live deeply rooted in the love of God, steady in spirit, clear in mind, and strong without becoming hard. The reason this next season will surprise even you is because the change will not only show up in what you do, it will show up in who you are when nobody is watching. You will notice it in the way you wake up with less heaviness than before. You will notice it in the way certain thoughts no longer pull you into the same deep spiral. You will notice it in the way you pause before reacting, in the way peace becomes more appealing than proving yourself, in the way you start letting go of conversations, habits, and attachments that once drained the life out of you. The transformation coming over you is not cosmetic. It is not performance. It is not a temporary emotional high. It is the kind of change that reaches your roots and starts altering your entire inner landscape. When that happens, even simple things feel different. Your home feels different. Your prayers feel different. Your choices feel different. Even your silence begins to hold a new kind of strength. There have been so many things you survived that should have made you bitter. Some of them nearly did. There were seasons when your heart became guarded because it had been mishandled too many times. There were seasons when you stopped expecting understanding because people kept projecting their own assumptions onto you without taking time to know your pain. There were seasons when you felt like you had to carry grace for everyone else while privately wondering who would carry you. But the mercy of God did not leave you in that state. He did not allow all that pain to become the final architect of your character. He has been teaching you something deeper than reaction. He has been teaching you how to heal without becoming prideful, how to forgive without becoming naive, how to move forward without pretending the past did not affect you. That is why the change feels so sacred. It is not shallow positivity. It is healing with roots. Listen to this closely. God is not just bringing you out of a difficult season. He is bringing a different person out of that season. The version of you that entered the wilderness is not the version of you that will leave it. Something in your thinking has matured. Something in your heart has softened. Something in your spirit has become less dependent on outside validation and more anchored in what God says about you. That does not mean you suddenly have no fears. It means fear no longer gets the final word. It does not mean life has become easy. It means you are no longer interpreting every difficulty as proof that you are abandoned. There is a calmness beginning to settle in you that the world cannot manufacture. There is a steadiness growing in you that does not come from getting all the answers at once, but from finally trusting that God is present even when answers unfold slowly. If you have felt tired lately in a way that sleep does not fix, this message is especially for you. Some tiredness comes from work, some comes from responsibility. But there is another kind of tiredness that comes from carrying too many invisible things for too long. It comes from holding yourself together while healing in silence. It comes from living with unresolved questions. It comes from trying to remain hopeful without having clear evidence that anything is changing. It comes from being the one others lean on while your own heart goes unattended. Jesus sees that kind of exhaustion. He does not shame it. He does not ignore it. He meets it with gentleness. And part of the transformation unfolding in you is this. You are learning that you do not have to live every day braced for impact. You do not have to earn rest by collapsing. You are allowed to release the burden of always being on guard. You are allowed to be held by the peace of God. That peace will become one of the clearest signs that you are changing. At first, it may appear in small moments. A thought that would once ruin your whole day no longer has the same grip. A conversation that would have pulled you into anxiety now passes without stealing your center. A memory rises, but instead of destroying your peace, it becomes something you can observe without drowning in it. These are not small victories. They are evidence of inner healing. They are signs that your soul is no longer as easily ruled by what once controlled it. In the beginning, the change may seem subtle. You may even question whether it is real, but keep paying attention. Heaven often moves gently before it moves obviously. What begins as a small shift in your reactions can become a new way of living. What begins as a quiet moment of peace can become a foundation you stand on. There is also a new clarity coming to you, not the kind that answers every mystery overnight, but the kind that helps you stop betraying your own discernment. For too long, you may have doubted what God was showing you because you were afraid of being wrong. You over-explained what felt clearly unhealthy. You stayed in rooms that drained you because leaving felt too complicated. You gave repeated chances where wisdom was asking for boundaries. You ignored the tension in your spirit because you thought endurance was always holy. But the person you are becoming will not confuse self-abandonment with righteousness. You are learning that peace matters, truth matters, integrity matters, boundaries matter, timing matters, discernment matters. This does not make you cold. It makes you aligned as God deepens your spirit. You will begin to feel less attracted to what is loud and more drawn to what is true. That shift may confuse some people around you. They may say you changed, and in some ways, they will be right. You are changing. You are no longer so interested in chasing approval that costs you peace. You are no longer eager to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You are no longer impressed by what looks successful on the outside if it leaves your soul restless on the inside. Your appetite is changing. Your priorities are changing. You are starting to value stillness over noise, depth over performance, presence over pressure. The world will not always understand that kind of change because it rarely knows what to do with quiet strength. But God understands it, and He is the one guiding you into it. This is why you have to stop measuring your progress only by visible results. Some of the most important things that have happened in your life recently cannot be photographed. You cannot post them. You cannot fully explain them to people who only know how to celebrate public milestones. But that does not make them less real. Healing is real. Greater self-awareness is real. Inner peace is real. Stronger discernment is real. The ability to say no without drowning in guilt is real. The ability to wait without panicking is real. The ability to return to prayer instead of running to distraction is real. These are holy changes. These are signs that the ground inside you is becoming more stable. And as your inner world becomes more stable, your outer life will begin to reflect that transformation in ways you never forced. There will come a moment when you look back at your old self and feel compassion instead of shame. This is important because healing is not only about becoming new guy. It is also about learning to see your past self through the eyes of mercy. You will look back at the version of you that tolerated too much, feared too much, cried too much, and doubted too much. And instead of judging that person, you will understand them. You will realize they were doing the best they could with the light they had at the time. You will see that even in your confusion, God never walked away. Even in your poor decisions, His mercy kept breathing life into you. Even in the seasons when you lost sight of yourself, heaven did not lose sight of you. That realization will break something open in you. Gratitude will deepen. Bitterness will loosen, and the future will stop feeling like a threat and begin to feel like an invitation. You may have wondered why some relationships started feeling unfamiliar, why some conversations suddenly seem empty, why certain environments that once felt normal now make your spirit feel tired. It is because growth changes your tolerance when God begins refining your inner life. What once felt acceptable may no longer feel sustainable. That does not mean you must walk around judging everyone. It simply means you are developing a greater sensitivity to what nourishes your spirit and what slowly depletes it. This is part of becoming who you are meant to be. You cannot keep forcing yourself to remain emotionally attached to patterns that your soul has outgrown. You cannot keep calling chaos familiar just because you learned how to survive in it. You are being led toward peace. You are being led toward truth. You are being led toward a deeper kind of life. For some of you, this message is confirming what you have sensed for months. You have felt the shift, but you could not name it. You have known that your season is changing, but the old weight has tried to convince you nothing meaningful is happening. Let this be your reminder. God is never only working when you can see quick results. Some of His most life-changing work happens under the surface, where no applause interrupts the process. Seeds grow in hidden places first, roots deepen in darkness before branches spread in sunlight. What is happening to you now is sacred because it is not built on hype. It is being built on truth, patience, prayer, surrender, and the quiet, steady hand of God. Those things may not impress the world immediately, but they create a life that can stand when storms return. And yes, storms will still come. Challenges do not vanish simply because you are growing. The difference is that you will meet them differently. Where you once would have panicked, you will pause. Where you once would have begged for instant escape, you will ask for wisdom. Where you once would have interpreted every obstacle as punishment, you will begin to ask what God is producing in you through the process. This does not make pain easy. It makes pain less meaningless. It helps you see that pressure does not always signal destruction. Sometimes it signals development. Sometimes it is the very environment in which strength is formed. Sometimes it is the place where shallow faith becomes rooted faith. And when your faith becomes rooted, not even uncertainty can shake you the same way. There is a deep healing happening in your identity. That may be the most important part of all this. For too long, you may have answered the question of who you are through the language of what happened to you. You were the rejected one, the overlooked one, the misunderstood one, the one who had to be strong, the one who carried too much, the one who never got what others seemed to receive so easily. But God is rewriting that answer from the inside out. You are not just the person who survived pain. You are the person deeply loved by God. You are the person carried by grace. You are the person being prepared with intention. You are the person whose story is not ending in the place where it nearly broke. The more that truth settles into you, the less you will need to cling to old labels just to explain your life. That change in identity will affect every part of you. It will affect the way you speak to yourself in private. It will affect the way you allow people to treat you. It will affect the kind of future you permit yourself to imagine. When a person believes they are still defined by old damage, they keep expecting small things from life. They keep choosing what matches their wounds instead of what honors their worth. But when healing starts reaching identity, possibility begins to expand. Hope begins to breathe again. The heart starts opening to the idea that God might actually have beautiful things ahead. Not because you earned them through struggle, but because He is good and because your life is held by a love stronger than what tried to limit you. Maybe that is what scares you a little, not pain, because pain has been familiar. Maybe what feels unfamiliar is the thought of becoming free, the thought of waking up lighter, the thought of not needing chaos to feel alive, the thought of no longer being controlled by the opinions of those who never truly understood your path. Freedom can feel strange when survival has been normal for a long time. Peace can feel unfamiliar when stress has been your atmosphere. But do not run back to what hurt you just because healing feels new. Do not sabotage the gentleness of this season because it does not look like the urgency you are used to. What God is doing now may be slower than your fear wants, but it is deeper than quick emotional relief. He is not just calming you for a day, He is teaching your whole being a new way to live. There are prayers you prayed months ago that are being answered in forms you did not expect. Perhaps you asked God to change your life, and He began by changing your appetite. Perhaps you asked Him to open a door, and He began by closing your attachment to what was beneath your calling. Perhaps you asked for peace, and He began revealing all the places where you kept making agreements with stress. God often answers at the root before He answers at the surface. He heals deeper than our first request because He sees what is truly needed. That is why some seasons feel confusing at first. We ask for one thing, and God begins a much larger work. But later, when the fruit starts appearing, we understand that His way was wiser than our urgency. If you have been in a season of separation, where certain people drifted away and certain familiar connections grew quiet, do not assume that emptiness means loss alone. Some distance is painful, yes, but some distance is protection. Some endings are acts of mercy. Some silences are clearing space. Some unanswered calls are God teaching you that your future cannot be built on begging for what does not honor your spirit. The person you are becoming cannot keep dragging old attachments into new levels of purpose. There are things you had to outgrow, even if outgrowing them felt lonely at first. There are rooms you had to leave emotionally, even before you could leave them physically. There are patterns you had to stop normalizing, even if that made you feel different from those around you. Trust this, not everything that leaves is a loss. Some things leave because your soul is finally making room for peace. You are also being prepared to carry more, but hear this clearly. More does not only mean more responsibility, it means more peace, more clarity, more wisdom, more influence, more stability, more capacity to love without losing yourself. God is not preparing you merely to do more things. He is preparing you to become a vessel that can hold greater grace without falling apart. That kind of preparation cannot happen overnight. It requires healing where you once ignored your wounds. It requires surrender where you once clung to control. It requires humility where pain once made you defensive. It requires trust where delays once made you bitter. This is why the process has taken time. God has not been making you late. He's been making you ready. And when you are ready, what once seemed impossible begins to feel natural. Opportunities that used to intimidate you will meet a different version of your spirit. Decisions that once overwhelmed you will be approached with greater calm. Conversations you once avoided will be handled with honesty and peace. You will not suddenly become flawless, but you will be far more rooted. You will stop underestimating what God has built in you through the hidden years. You will stop speaking about yourself as if you are still the person from your most exhausted season. You will stop rehearsing your limitations more than you rehearse the faithfulness of God. This will not be because you are pretending confidence. It will be because confidence has finally grown in clean soil. There are hidden wounds in you that Jesus has been touching so gently that part of you almost missed the miracle. Not every healing arrives with tears and visible breakthrough. Some healing arrives as a new response. Some arrives as increased patience. Some arrives as less desire to revisit what once consumed your attention. Some arrives as the ability to sit in silence without feeling hunted by your own thought. Some arrives as the realization that you no longer need to chase people who are determined to misunderstand your heart. These are sacred signs. Do not overlook them. The enemy of your peace wants you to dismiss progress because it did not happen in a dramatic way. But heaven celebrates every place in you where fear loses ground and truth takes root. You may still have moments when old thoughts return. You may still hear familiar whispers telling you that nothing is really changing, that you will always be this way, that your past is too strong, that your heart is too damaged, that your prayers do not move heaven. But those whispers are no longer truth just because they are familiar. Thoughts can revisit you without owning you. Fear can knock without being welcomed in. Pain can echo without becoming your identity again. The fact that struggle revisits does not mean growth is absent. It means you are learning how to stand, and that is a different kind of victory than you used to understand. Before, you may have believed victory meant never feeling weak. Now you are learning that victory can look like feeling the old pull and still choosing truth. You are becoming someone who can carry light into the lives of others, not because you are trying to appear wise, but because peace has started taking up more room in you. People are going to feel calmer around you. They are going to notice that your words carry weight, not because they are loud, but because they come from a deeper place. Your presence will begin to comfort people in ways you cannot fully explain. This is part of the purpose hidden in your pain. God rarely wastes the places where He has healed us. He turns them into sources of compassion. He turns them into wisdom. He turns them into quiet authority. The very places that once made you feel broken may become the places through which others experience hope, simply because you can now speak from a place of truth instead of fresh panic. But do not rush to perform that purpose. Let God finish deepening your roots. Let Him continue strengthening the inner life no one else sees. There is a danger in trying to look transformed before you have learned how to live from transformation. God is not calling you to put on a spiritual costume. He is calling you to become whole in the hidden places. That means continuing to choose prayer when distraction would be easier. Continuing to choose honesty when numbing would feel faster. Continuing to choose rest when performance would bring more applause. Continuing to choose presence over pressure. The fruit of your life will become visible in time, but it will only remain if the roots are healthy. God cares more about making you real than making you impressive. There is also something else happening. Your relationship with time is changing. For a long while, waiting may have felt like punishment. Delays may have felt personal. Unanswered prayers may have made you believe you were behind. But the person you are becoming will not be ruled by panic over timing. You are beginning to understand that what is meant for you under the hand of God does not need your anxiety to arrive. The right things do not require you to betray your peace. The right season does not ask you to become someone false in order to enter it. What belongs to you in the will of God will come with clarity, not constant confusion. It may still require faith. It may still require courage. But it will not require the destruction of your inner life. This understanding will save you from chasing many things that only look right from far away. When you stop living from panic, you start seeing more clearly. You start noticing how many decisions you once made just to avoid discomfort. You start noticing how often you said yes because you feared disappointing others. You start noticing how quickly you used to call something good simply because it was available. That is changing now. Your discernment is becoming cleaner. Your choices are becoming slower, more prayerful, more rooted. That may frustrate people who benefited from your old lack of boundaries, but it will honor the person God is shaping you to become. Slower is not always weakness. Sometimes slower is wisdom. Sometimes a delayed answer is a protected future. Sometimes restraint is strength wearing the face of patience. One day, very soon, you are going to recognize the shift so clearly that it will bring tears to your eyes. Not tears of heartbreak, but tears of awe. You will look at your own mind, your own reactions, your own spirit, and realize that the person who once felt so fragile has become steady. You will remember how you used to spend whole nights wrestling with fear, and now the same fear cannot stay in you the same way. You will remember how you once needed constant reassurance from people, and now you are learning to rest in what God has spoken. You will remember how you once felt emotionally controlled by every change in atmosphere, and now you can stay centered, even when the room around you is restless. That moment will humble you. It will remind you that God truly does transform people from the inside out. And when that realization comes, do not rush past it. Let yourself honor the journey. Let yourself remember how far you have come. Too many people minimize their healing because it happened gradually. They only know how to celebrate sudden change, but gradual healing is still miraculous. Slow restoration is still holy. A heart that learns how to trust again is a miracle. A mind that becomes quieter after years of inner noise is a miracle. A person who begins to feel safe in the presence of God after a long season of disappointment is a miracle. Do not measure the holiness of transformation by how dramatic it appears. Measure it by the depth of life it restores. There was a time when you may have thought your softness was a problem. Maybe life taught you that being tender made you vulnerable. Maybe you were hurt when you were sincere. Maybe your trust was mishandled. Maybe your heart was given no safe place to rest. So you learned to harden strategically. You learned to keep part of yourself locked away. But what Jesus is doing now is not making you weak. He is teaching you how to be tender without being unguarded, open without being careless, loving without abandoning wisdom. This is mature healing. It is not the absence of boundaries. It is the presence of peace within them. It is the ability to stay kind without becoming easy to misuse. That balance is sacred, and it is part of who you are becoming. You are also becoming more comfortable with stillness. This may not sound dramatic, but it is a powerful sign of inner change. A restless soul often fears stillness because stillness reveals what has been avoided. But when healing begins, stillness stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a place of refuge. You become less afraid of your own thoughts because they are no longer filled with the same relentless accusations. You become less desperate to stay distracted because your spirit is learning how to rest in God. Moments of quiet begin to nourish you instead of exposing you. This matters because stillness is often where clarity returns. It is where God reminds you who you are beneath all the noise. It is where urgency loses its grip and truth begins to settle. As this continues, you may feel drawn to simpler things. More prayer, more honesty, more space, more scripture, more time away from what leaves your soul overstimulated. Do not dismiss that pull. It is not laziness. It is not withdrawal. It is realignment. The deeper your spirit becomes, the less interested you will be in things that only entertain the surface while starving the heart. This is not about becoming rigid or joyless. It is about becoming more alive to what actually gives life. There are pleasures that leave you emptier. There are distractions that quietly steal your sensitivity to God. There are routines that look normal but leave your inner world scattered. As the transformation deepens, you will start letting go of what numbs you and leaning into what restores you. That is wisdom. That is growth. That is grace teaching you how to live. For some of you, the heaviest part of your past has been self-condemnation. Not only the pain others caused, but the blame you placed on yourself for not knowing sooner, leaving sooner, speaking sooner, healing sooner. Hear this carefully. God is not standing over your story accusing you for being human in the middle of difficult season. He is not demanding that you hate your former self as proof of growth. Mercy speaks differently. Mercy says you are learning. Mercy says you were carrying more than others knew. Mercy says you made some choices from wounds, yes, but wounds are not the same thing as worthlessness. Mercy says there is still beauty ahead. When that truth reaches you deeply, shame begins to loosen. And when shame loosens, the soul has more room to breathe. This freedom from shame will change how you walk into the future. Shame always keeps people turned backward. It keeps them rehearsing mistakes. It keeps them expecting punishment. It keeps them suspicious of joy. But the person you are becoming cannot keep dragging shame into places where God is trying to establish peace. You have to let grace be stronger than your self-accusation. You have to let the cross mean something personal. Jesus did not come close to you, only to keep reminding you of the worst version of yourself. He came close to restore, to renew, to anchor you in truth, to call you forward. The more you believe that, the less power your old story will have to make you small. You may notice that your prayers are changing too. Once, many of your prayers may have come from desperation alone. Save me from this. Get me out of this. Change this now. And there is nothing wrong with those cries. God hears them with compassion. But as you grow, your prayers start carrying another tone. Shape me through this. Teach me in this. Strengthen me for what comes next. Guard my heart. Align my desires. Make me ready for what I once only wanted quickly. This is what maturity sounds like. It is not the absence of longing. It is longing anchored in trust. It is desire surrendered to wisdom. It is hope that no longer demands control in order to remain alive. This is why your next season will not only bless you, it will reveal you. It will show you the strength God built in secret. It will reveal the steadiness that formed while you were waiting. It will reveal the compassion that grew through your healing. It will reveal the wisdom that came from all the nights you thought nothing was changing. And yes, it will surprise you, because when transformation happens gradually, the person living it does not always realize how much has shifted until a new challenge appears, and they respond differently. Then suddenly the evidence is undeniable. The old reaction is gone. The old desperation is weaker. The old fear does not dominate. Something new has taken root. Something stronger, something calmer, something holy. There are places in your life where you are being invited to trust more deeply than before. Not blindly, but deeply. Trust that God can lead you without explaining every step in advance. Trust that silence is not proof of absence. Trust that delays do not cancel destiny. Trust that healing is happening even when it feels slower than you hoped. Trust that the version of you emerging now is not late, not broken beyond repair, and not forgotten. Trust that what has been hidden in you will be revealed in the right time. Trust that your life is not a collection of random disappointments, but a story still being shaped by wisdom beyond your limited view. This trust will not make every question disappear, but it will change the spirit in which you carry those questions. And carry them you will, but differently. There is a way to carry unanswered things without letting them poison your peace. There is a way to hold mystery without sinking into fear. There is a way to walk forward while still waiting for clarity. The world does not teach this well because it worships certainty. But faith is different. Faith is not pretending you know everything. Faith is learning how to remain rooted while the full picture unfolds slowly. Faith is saying God is good here too. God is present here too. God is shaping me here too. When you begin living from that place, your entire emotional world changes. You stop interpreting uncertainty as immediate danger. You stop making every unknown into a prophecy of failure. You start leaving room for God to surprise you with goodness. There is goodness ahead for you. I do not say that lightly. I say it with the full awareness that you have known pain. Goodness does not deny pain. Goodness meets it and outlasts it. Goodness is not naive. It is courageous. It dares to believe that after all you have carried, God can still bring beauty into your life in ways that are honest and real. That goodness may not look like a fantasy. It may look like peace that remains. It may look like healthier love. It may look like restored joy. It may look like a clearer mind. It may look like opportunities that fit the person you are now becoming. It may look like waking up and not feeling hunted by your own inner world. Never underestimate that kind of goodness. It is holy. It is life-giving. It is worth receiving. The enemy of your soul wants you to stay identified with your most wounded self, because wounded people often expect less from God and less from life. But Jesus keeps calling you beyond that. He keeps calling you into truth. He keeps calling you into a life where your past informs your compassion, but does not imprison your future. He keeps calling you into peace that is stronger than panic, and purpose that is deeper than performance. The call may feel gentle, but do not mistake gentleness for weakness. The voice of God is steady. It does not need to shout to be true. And right now, that steady voice is calling you out of small expectations, out of old self-definitions, out of inner agreements with fear, and into a more rooted, more spacious, more peaceful way of living. Maybe you have been asking when will I feel different? When will the heaviness break? When will I see the fruit of all this hidden work? There are moments when change becomes visible all at once. But more often, it arrives like dawn. First, the darkness is still there, but something begins to shift. Then the outlines become clearer. Then the room is filled with light. You are in that kind of moment now. The light has already begun to rise. Even if everything is not bright yet, something is changing. Do not give up just because the process is gradual. Dawn is still dawn even when it does not happen in one instant. And the person you are becoming is still becoming, even if the full picture is not yet visible to you. Let this settle in your spirit. You are not too late to become whole. You are not too late to become peaceful. You are not too late to become clear-minded, grounded, soft-hearted, and strong. You are not too late to become the person God saw when He first called you His. The years you spent surviving have not disqualified you from the years ahead. They have given God material for mercy, wisdom, and depth. Nothing is wasted in His hands, not the tears, not the confusion, not the loneliness, not even the mistakes. He is able to gather every fragment of your story and make something whole from it. That is what grace does. It does not erase your humanity. It redeems it. If no one has told you this recently, you are allowed to hope again. Not with shallow denial, but with deep-rooted faith. You are allowed to believe that your future is not limited to repeating the patterns that exhausted you. You are allowed to believe that the next version of your life can carry more peace than the last. You are allowed to believe that healing can be real, that love can be safe, that your mind can become quieter, that your spirit can become stronger, that your relationship with God can become more personal and steady than it has ever been before. Hope is not foolish when it is anchored in the character of God. Hope is resistance against despair. Hope is worship in motion. Hope is what keeps the heart open long enough to witness the faithfulness of heaven. And heaven has not been inactive, even now, as you listen. There are things being rearranged in your inner world. Some lies are losing their power. Some old agreements are breaking. Some weariness is being met by mercy. Some hard places are being softened by truth. Some deep places are being reminded that they are not beyond restoration. You may not feel all of this at once. That is all right. Transformation does not require dramatic emotion to be real. Sometimes the deepest work happens with a simple, quiet knowing. A sense that something in you is finally ready to stop living at war with itself. A sense that the next chapter will not be built on fear, the way previous ones were. A sense that Jesus is closer than your disappointment has allowed you to believe. Let this be the moment you stop speaking about yourself as if you are permanently stuck in your most painful season. Let this be the moment you stop bowing to the voice that says nothing really changes. Let this be the moment you begin cooperating with grace. Say yes to peace. Say yes to healing. Say yes to slower wisdom. Say yes to the deep work of God. Say yes to a future that looks more like truth and less like survival. You do not have to have everything figured out to say yes. You only have to stop resisting the possibility that God is actually doing what He promised. He is making all things new, and sometimes the first place that newness becomes visible is the human heart. The beautiful thing is this: the person you are becoming is not a stranger. It is the truest version of you, the version untouched by the lies that told you to shrink, the version less ruled by fear, the version not addicted to chaos, the version free enough to rest, the version wise enough to discern, the version soft enough to love and strong enough to keep boundaries, the version that can walk into new spaces without apologizing for existing, the version that can carry both humility and peace, the version that knows where strength really comes from, the version that has been hidden under years of pressure, but never destroyed by them. That person is rising now. That person is closer than you think. One day people will say there is something different about you, and they will not be wrong. But the real miracle is that long before they notice, you will know. You will feel the difference in the quiet. You will notice it in the way your spirit responds to stress. You will see it in the way you return to prayer instead of panic. You will hear it in the way you speak to yourself with more truth and less cruelty. You will see it in the way you no longer chase every door that opens. You will know it in the way peace starts feeling normal. That is when you will realize this was never about becoming impressive. It was about becoming free, free enough to be rooted, free enough to trust, free enough to live without carrying every old chain into every new room. So breathe for a moment. Let your shoulders soften. Let your mind become still enough to receive this. You are not losing yourself. You are finding the self that God has been protecting beneath the noise. You are not falling behind. You are being formed. You are not forgotten. You are being prepared. You are not too broken. You are being healed. You are not abandoned in the silence. You are being met there. Jesus has not stepped away from your story. He has been walking with you through every chapter, through every hidden tear, through every delayed answer, through every lonely night, through every small, brave decision to keep going when you had little strength left. That kind of faithfulness changes a person, and because he has been faithful, you can trust what comes next. The next version of you will carry more peace. The next version of you will breathe easier. The next version of you will know how to stay when it is right and leave when it is holy. The next version of you will not be so quick to hand your worth to temporary voices. The next version of you will not spend as much time begging for crumbs from places that were never assigned to feed your spirit. The next version of you will know the difference between urgency and alignment. The next version of you will know how to wait without collapsing and move without forcing. The next version of you will not be perfect, but it will be deeply anchored. That anchored life is what heaven has been shaping in you all along. Not a flashy life, not a performative life, a rooted life, a life where peace remains present even when answers are incomplete. A life where truth matters more than appearance. A life where healing becomes visible in the way you love, the way you rest, the way you discern, the way you return to God. A life where your past no longer dictates your expectations. A life where your mind is no longer a battlefield every single day. A life where your soul recognizes home in the presence of Jesus. That is the life you are being led into, step by step, breath by breath, prayer by prayer, quiet transformation by quiet transformation by quiet transformation. So do not despise this season just because it has been hidden. Do not call it empty because it lacked public proof. Do not say nothing happened simply because the work was internal. The hidden years carry holy weight. The waiting years teach deep lessons. The silent years often become the foundation for the most lasting fruit. You are going to see that. You are going to live that. And when you do, you will understand why God did not rush what only depth could build. You will understand why He let some things fall away. You will understand why certain doors stayed closed. You will understand why your spirit kept being drawn back to Him in the quiet. It was not punishment. It was preparation. It was protection. It was love refusing to leave you shallow. If this message has found you at exactly the right time, hold on to it. Return to it when the old voice tries to tell you that you have not changed. Return to it when the process feels slow. Return to it when you are tempted to speak over yourself with the language of your former pain. Return to it when you need the reminder that who you are becoming is beautiful, holy, and real. Let it anchor you. Let it steady you. Let it call you higher, because the life in front of you is not meant to be lived from constant fear. It is meant to be lived from a deep and growing awareness that you are loved, led, healed, and held. And now, before this moment ends, receive this with a quiet heart. May the God who has kept you in secret strengthen every fragile place within you. May Jesus settle your mind where fear has been loud. May peace guard the parts of you that have known too much strain. May truth uproot every lie that tried to define you by your hardest seasons. May healing continue in the places no one else can see. May wisdom rise where confusion used to live. May your spirit become more rooted than restless. May your future be shaped by faith instead of fear. May you recognize the holy work already taking place within you. And may you never again speak of yourself as though your pain has the authority to name you. Chosen one, this is who you are becoming. Steady where you used to shake, clear where you used to spiral, soft where you used to harden, wise where you used to rush, peaceful where you used to brace for impact, anchored where you used to drift, loved where you once felt forgotten, guided where you once felt lost. And one day very soon, you will look at your life, your spirit, your mind, your choices, and your peace, and you will whisper with tears in your eyes that God truly did not leave you the way He found you. He was transforming you the whole time.